It's been about 5 years since the fairy tale anime has come to an end. Hiro Mashima has created a sequel manga called Fairy Tale 100 Years Quest, where Team Natsu focuses on completing an unfinished century mission. And now it's getting an anime adaptation, which is premiering July 2024. It's pretty exciting, right? Well, to see everybody return, yes. But on the other hand, I'm worried about how it might be handled. Why? The answer is one simple word. Crunchyroll. Since Sony bought them along with Funimation, they decided to merge the two into one hub. And they marketed it as a win for the fans. At first glance, it may seem like exciting news as you don't have to think about more than one streaming platform, but there are some big problems that come with that, including laying off employees, producing lower quality products, increasing prices, lack of healthy competition, and lower payouts. In this case, the cost of healthy competition means there are little to no alternate sources to watch anime legally. By competing, it means offering products that the other doesn't. For example, Funimation was known for producing English dubs and distributed them through channel networks, Blu-ray bundles, and its streaming service. Crunchyroll, however, had a library containing older and newer series with mostly just subs. They also had simulcasts allowing premium subscribers to watch new episodes after the initial premiere. Heck, even free users were able to watch an ad-supported free version after a week. But unfortunately, now that the monopoly is growing, there's barely even free access to watch anything, if there's any left at all. They've even recently increased prices for the Mega Fan Plan and Ultimate Fan Plan, not the regular fan plan. Where I learned this was Otaku Spirit's price hike video.
Let's get the really negative stuff out of the way. Yes, Crunchyroll has announced that they are increasing their subscription costs of the Mega Plan and Ultra Fan tiers, not the regular standard tier. But yes, despite the fact that a little while ago, when we had that whole misinformation spreading about them increasing it for Funimation people that brought over to Crunchyroll, even though they said back then, hey, we can't say anything about that, which I understand. When whoever they're asking about that whole kerfuffle, that person's not going to know they're planning on increasing their prices. They were just clearing up the negativity and the misinformation around that, which is, yes, was Funimation people that were on the yearly tier. They were being grandfathered into that price into Crunchyroll on the Mega Fan Plan. And so once that went away, they went to the normal Mega Fan Plan tier, which is that costly. So it's not that the prices themselves were increasing, it's just that that one person, their price was going up. But yes, at the time, they got some clarification that no, we don't have any plans right now, but that never says that it's never going to happen. They probably already had it planned to come out. So yes, now is the case. But yes, in the US, Argentina, Colombia, France, Portugal, and other select countries, the price of the Mega Fan and the Ultimate Fan is going up. The Mega Fan is going from $9.99 to $11.99 a month. I'm not sure exactly what yes, both the annual and the regular are going to be going up, the monthly and the annual. Ultimate Fan is going from $14.99 to $15.99. So there you go. And like I said, the regular fan is going to stay at $7.99. So that's not going up. So it's just the higher tier packages, that stuff's going up. I don't know why. I guess they're just trying to bank in on those that are like the big fans. But yes, technically there is specific perks for those two plans that's not in the regular fan. That's probably the reason why it's going up. I couldn't say for sure. They're not going to say why the price is going up. I would assume that some cases they can, if it's like a shipping issue or something like that, if one of those plans has some sort of shipping thing. But still, either way, the prices are going up. So if you do have those plans, I think it will be the same. It's obviously going to be the same cost that you've already paid until it ends, at which point you're going to have to go up. I've already had a couple folks send me some DMs saying, hey, look, I got an email for this. And it basically says that once the period's over, you're going to go up on your next charge of the annual plan. And yes, it's the case for the monthly as well. So that is what it is. I didn't get an email because I just got a regular fan. I'm just a regular fan. I don't need all those extra perks, but it is what it is. But additionally, ANN has reported that they also are decreasing the trial period from 14 days down to 7 days of free viewing. So apparently they're changing that as well. It's been 14 for, gosh, it feels like forever, but it looks like that's finally shifting as well. They're kind of seemingly cutting some corners and condensing it down so that way you have less free and less cheap and more cost, which is unfortunately kind of the thing across the entire spectrum. Everything right now is going up. So unfortunately, it was inevitability. We had High Dive here recently. They're going up on their subscription costs, which I think I reported last time we did a news bit. So fortunately for regular fans, it seems like that's not happening yet. You can expect it in the future probably as well, but for now it's $7.99. So
lastly, laying off employees means lots of translators have lost their jobs. One of them announcing they were no longer getting work for them just 2 days before Christmas in 2021. A few months before the merger was first announced, early in 2022. What's worse is, a couple months ago, they reported that they were going to try out AI translations and maybe AI dubbing. In regards to the former, according to Otaku Spirit, the Yuzuki family's 4 sons was a test to set that up.
The assumption is that every single company in the world right now is looking to AI technologies. And yes, I guess I didn't really kind of look at it too much in the fact that we get a lot of fiascos that come from certain translations looking like they're AI. Yes, late last year, we had the whole situation with Yuzuki family's 4 sons, and that subtitling was horrific. Now, at the time, Crunchyroll had claimed that it wasn't their fault. Like, they were looking into the licensor and saying, okay, we're going to get a proper translation, and we'll get back to you guys. Well, that your guys are the ones that are translating. Why are you blaming the licensor? It seemed like they were deflecting. But again, with this interview, it sort of indicates that no, that might have been them trying it out and it failed miserably.
Crunchyroll president Rahul Parini said, AI is definitely something that we think about at a lot of different workflows within the organization. Right now, one of the areas we are focused on testing is our subtitling and closed captioning, where we go from speech to text, and how do we improve and optimize our processes where we can get the subtitles done in various languages across the world faster so that we can launch as close to the Japanese release as possible. So that's definitely an area where we are focused on. Basically what he's saying is the goal is to translate new titles in various different language and release them globally around the same time as the Japanese release in the hopes of making more money.
So that's definitely an area we are focused on. I think most people got the caption there, areas that we're focusing on. But what's interesting about this comment is that there is a few steps here. He's talking about specifically, of course, the workflow. Getting the original, getting it into text, getting it transcribed, getting it turned into, getting it translated, and then getting it onto the video and getting it put up there in as many regions and as many languages as possible. I think this is something that a lot of people kind of miss when we're talking about using AI to translate. In a lot of cases, it's not about firing all the translators. I know a lot of people are celebrating with this whole thing of the groups that are anti-localizers, which I kind of am a little bit in that area. But what people don't seem to understand is it's not so much, right here, it's not so much Crunchyroll and really any organization. It's not them saying we need to get rid of translators. Because yes, most people argue that translators aren't getting paid well. I've seen countless posts about translators and how very little they get paid. It's not about them not paying those people and firing them. We have to take into consideration this isn't really necessarily Crunchyroll, Sony, whatever, trying to save money. It's them trying to gain money. That's the key thing here. It's not preventing losing money because they can pay those translators. They want to gain money faster. And how do they do that? They actually have to spend money. I know this is a shocker, right? Paying into generative AI translations and paying somebody to monitor the AI translation and to manipulate in whatever way they need in order for it to work for them specifically, all this stuff costs money. So it's actually going to cost them more to push into this realm than it's actually going to save them from the translators. Yes, they're going to save a little money there, but they're still going to have somebody watch it. And that person that watches it might have to get paid more. So this is an aspect of not so much them saving money, but actually trying to gain it in the idea that if they can get it translated and on that video faster, they will get it out into more regions, and those more regions will then want to sub. I mean, a prime example is the whole situation with High Dive. Why did High Dive apparently fail in certain regions that were Spanish speaking? It's because they weren't getting it there fast enough. And if they were getting it there, that was in English. Not providing a service as good as possible to the users as fast as possible is going to lead to the idea of not getting that service. People want it fast. It's supposed to be already aired, and I'm seeing people talking about it. I'm seeing screenshots on Twitter. Where's my episode? Well, I'm not going to sub to you if you don't give me the episode. I'm going to go there. I'm going to go elsewhere. And that's what sort of Japan's always been focused on. You have a lot of cases like with the whole situation with the Ancient Magus' Bride. It's not necessarily they're trying to prevent a translator in the West from getting a job. It's they're trying to get it translated as fast as possible and get it global before somebody else looks at it. Or somebody pirates it and fans subs it themselves. They're trying to get as many people as fast as possible and make money.
Now, I know a lot of people who are so focused on getting rid of certain human translators who localize the subtitles are probably celebrating right now, with the Dragon Maid situation being an example of that. But Otaku Spirit raises an argument that makes it sound concerning. Imagining one AI program translating thousands of titles, they set certain rules, and everything will be improperly translated.
Now, with the camp of the people that are in my camp or just the anti-localizers, we're celebrating. I'm not necessarily celebrating, but there's a lot of people celebrating. Yay! Good riddance to localizers. Hold on. Wait. Slow down. I think there's a fear here. I have personally a fear here where I think we're overlooking a key feature here. I think what people don't seem to understand is that AI is still man-made. And AI is in often cases very centralized to one location. Whereas with translations and human translations, they're giving these products out to multiple people. And every now and then, you'll get one of those people has an agenda. And suddenly, they just decide to break your subtitles and translate it in an improper way. And then you get mad. And then you, of course, group it up and say, you localizers are destroying my anime. Now, let's for once think about now all these people are AI. And it's all that one place. Because it's not going to be like, okay, we gave this one to this AI, we gave this project to this AI. No, they're going to give it to one AI. Now, what if the people programming that AI, because again, AI is programmed. There is a company behind it, and they will set certain rules. Now, think of that one company that has your AI that's translating your anime, has that one type of person in it. That person that wants to put a political spin on things. Suddenly, every single project will be improperly translated. Mark my words, if the wrong company is AI translating your anime, everything's going to be improperly translated. And I don't mean they're going to put the wrong word in there or whatever. They're going to put certain rules in play that will manipulate the actual output. And then suddenly, every time a character talks about, let's say, rice balls, suddenly everything that gets translated about rice balls is turned into donut. And then suddenly every translation is done improperly because they don't like rice balls. Rice balls are very offensive, and they want to make sure every mention of rice balls is donut. That's what people I don't think seem to understand. AI is very useful. AI is very, very successful, and AI is not a case of if, it's a matter of when. But I think people are getting a little too ahead of themselves when they think that there's not going to be a situation in the future where suddenly AI is translating everything for Crunchyroll and it has an agenda. And the people behind it have an agenda. So keep that in mind. It's not going to go away if suddenly everything's AI.
If you're curious to see how many Crunchyrolls reacted to Yuzuki family, I'll read a couple of comments to you. Does the translation seem off to anyone else? I keep seeing characters using the wrong pronouns for sentences like, I'm in a bad mood early in the morning when they are talking about someone else. It just feels off. I hope the subtitles get worked on a bit because it feels awkward to read as of the time of this comment. I don't usually comment on Crunchyroll, but I thought I should here. The subtitles on this episode are filled with typos and almost seem computer-generated. I'm usually okay when episodes are late or subtitles are missing for a bit, but this standard is not acceptable. Translating a name as Falcon, writing OK Bandage for a Band-Aid, displaying two sets of subtitles that read slightly differently, and that's not even half of what I saw. Pretty disappointing. The translations for this are distinctively bad. It's like they just used a translator app. Please fix this episode and have quality translations moving forward. And if you keep scrolling, you'll find a lot of commenters saying bad translations. Now, other users stated that they got a human translator to fix the mistakes, But think about the initial premiere of the first episode. On AnyTrends.net, Gracie Q wrote her review for the Yuzuki family, writing how unsatisfied she was with it. While the horrific translation was fixed in later episodes, the biggest issue with what appears to be MTL, machine translation, subs is how it completely ruined the premiere. The first episode is a perfect introduction to the story and characters, ending on a sob-worthy note of the struggles of a family who have encountered intense grief, but are trying their best to stay put together. Instead, scenes where the brothers argue are hilarious rather than sad. Most moments of joy and thankfulness are interrupted by confusion because of the dialogue. The first episode's botched translation really shows the importance of a good translation, and how butchering it can completely ruin the experience. Even with the fixed subs, my memory of the first episode is tainted by how I felt in the moment watching in confusion and horror. I acknowledge Gracie said that they didn't do that for the rest of the series. But the Yuzuki family made its debut on Crunchyroll in fall of 2023, and Gracie wrote her review in January earlier this year. Comparing that to the screenshots that I took of articles that were uploaded in following months shows that they're still trying their hand at it. Now, personally, I'm more of a dub watcher, so I prefer to watch the fairy tale dub. You know, Todd Abercorn, Jeremy Lee, Tia Ballard, and Newton Pittman are all talented actors, so they've all done a very good job. But for those who prefer the subs, I'm starting to worry about how they'll react with the premiere of every new episode of Fairy Tail 100 Years Quest, if, or rather when, as Otaku Spirit words it, Crunchyroll uses AI to translate them. For example, let's say in one episode when Lucy sees Aquarius again, and she breaks down saying how much she missed her, AI subtitles could say something like about how she needs comfort because she is grieving over the loss of a family member, or another emotion that just isn't sadness and crying. Otaku Spirit also talks about AI dubs. Like, you know how that kind of voice acting works? As an actor, you have the adapted script, and you have to think of a way to make sure your line fits the already animated mouth movements on the character from the Japanese version. Sometimes you have to rephrase it a little bit differently, because every word has different syllables in different languages. But with Crunchyroll and AI dubs, Otaku Spirit says he could see them programming an AI using an English voice actor, extending a line in the English version compared to the Japanese version, and animate an AI mouth on top of them.
That said, there was some other stuff in this interview. He says dubbing, not so much yet, for a couple of reasons. Our dubs tend to be adapted dubs. They are not direct translations, so it's a creative process. We have the teams that are focused on adapting the dubs to each region. Humor. We also have the thing that we have to dub, and we can't edit the animation itself, so we have to get the match to the lip syncs correct. So it's definitely something that we are playing with. We don't find the technology to be there yet, but obviously we also like playing in areas like personalization and discovery and how we can get generative AI in making that a better experience for our users. So yeah, a lot of different areas across the organization, we are testing AI. Now the first part here I think is very interesting. Like I mentioned earlier, it almost kind of opens the door to the idea of AI dubbing. Now again, where I kind of see this going, and it's again, I don't. Not a matter if, it's a matter when. My assumption has always been that at some point they will have voice banks where they can input these translations and automatically generate voice dialogue through these voice banks. For those who don't know, like things like Hatsune Miku is a really good example there. Hatsune Miku is a voice bank. It has all these different inflections and different vowels and all this kind of stuff, and they put in the words and it makes her say it. I mean, technically, with anything else, when you highlight some text with an add-on, you can have it read it to you. This is a thing that is very common. I mean, you look, Google search any politician says something AI, and you could see different politicians say the most crazy things they've never said before. This is something that is building. Now, obviously, the area where it still needs a lot of work is things like inflections and motion, all that kind of stuff, getting an actual performance out of a character. But he's specifically not so much talking about that. He's just talking about how it can't sync. And he's talking about AIs that can possibly make it happen. What this is me completely reading way into what he's saying here. It almost seems like, yes, that kind of opens the door to the idea of what if you have the translation in text format, you put it into this little voice bank, it suddenly produces this English voice actor to say these lines, and then they use AI to alter the actual lip flaps. That I have no doubt can happen. If you can have AI right now generate what looks like a live view of Japan with a lady walking down the street, you can make a lip flap longer or less, or, you know, change the lips itself to do something else. Just grab that shot and move the mouth however you want. I could see them totally looking at this technology. More so because, again, Crunchyroll is Sony, which Sony is Aniplex. These are actually anime-producing companies. I can totally see them looking into this technology in order to help it for being supplied elsewhere, because lip syncing is a big thing. Back in the day, yes, with like Godzilla movie and stuff like that, and the guy's like, oh my gosh, it's Godzilla. They didn't care back then to match things up. They know in order to make it less distracting for the viewer, they had to match that stuff up. They had to have these people actually go, okay, well, I can't say this long sentence. I need to only say like maybe five words right here in order to make it match. So I got to then alter the translation that's already been altered to match the actual lip flaps. And I can see them totally looking into technologies to extend lip flaps, shorten lip flaps, all to where they can quickly just translate directly from that subtitling, throw it into a voice bank, make the voice bank create it.
I'm gonna have to say I'm against this as well, because to me, that just gets rid of an option for those who are looking for a career in acting. Like those who watch both subs and dubs say, you have to try to stay as accurate to the Japanese version as possible. Because if you put an AI mouth movement, extending or shortening a line, and it wasn't in the Japanese version, you're just going to invite those viewers to disagree with you, and maybe even drive them up a wall. Some people will go as far as to stop watching these titles and unsubscribe from their subscription, but others will probably stay because they're patient enough to wait for accurate translations or a human voice actor to fix the dubbed flaws. But for me, this is why I don't have a Crunchyroll subscription. And by keeping it this way, it's how I tell them that I don't like what they're doing. Find a human translator, give them some time to work on the subtitles, give them some time to work on the dubbed scripts, and find a real voice actor to perform those lines. Unfortunately, even if they did, there are still some problems with that. One of them being that they don't get paid very well. I'm not sure about the voice actors, maybe, but for the translators, Crunchyroll pays them up to $80 per episode. This is a controversy Crunchyroll has had even before the rebrand with Funimation. On the other hand, the latter paid them way much more, between $400 to $500, and they even credit them at the end of the dubs. But if you're wondering, why do they do this, or when did this happen, I found a video called It's Impossible to Live as a Crunchyroll Translator by the Canepa Effect, explaining where it all began. I talked about this in my video, The End is Near, but for those who don't know, in the mid-2000s, Funimation was developing or already had its own TV channel, while Crunchyroll was an illegal streaming site. During that time, there was also a group of fan-subbers, which are anime fans themselves who translate titles for other fans to watch, called Live Evil. They weren't using their real names, but instead made up Japanese names.
Yes, I am known online as Yaoi Boy.
I'm known as Get Fresh.
Hi, I'm Interacti. I'm Hisho Baraiken. I also work with Datebayo.
During Crunchyroll's days as an unauthorized source, they charged viewers HD releases for unauthorized titles, unlike Funimation, who made money through selling authorized DVD sets. I don't know if Funimation's ways applied to this, but Live Evil had a disdain for what Crunchyroll did. They intentionally refused to accept any payouts whatsoever because it was their way of paying respect for the original Japanese creators. But in 2008, Crunchyroll reached a $4 million invest and began licensing anime legally. That also meant they would have to get rid of their illegal licensing and hire legal translators. Crunchyroll's $80 payout started with the creator of Live Evil and MX Media, Ken Hoinski, aka Tofu Sensei.
In my group, Live Evil Fan Subs, we do a lot of older, obscure shows that probably won't get released in the USA. Now, with the advent of the internet and the whole digital distribution, people can get the shows from Japan instantly, capturing shows off TV and encoding the digital video, distributing them online through peer-to-peer networks. People in America, people all over the world are downloading these as soon as they come, translating them, subtitling it, and then putting it on the internet.
Hoinski was one of the co-founders of Live Evil and later established MX Media, a translation firm collaborating with Crunchyroll. Since he and his co-workers were so used to earning no money whatsoever, they decided they could only accept a smaller amount, being charged far less, from between $400 to $500 an episode to $80. Because of this, his workers felt expendable, and they blamed him for undercutting the entire industry. In 2010, Hoinski sold MX Media to Crunchyroll and briefly became vice president. Later, he resigned and wrote a so-called dating book guide for guys, but by using words like dominance, force, advance, and leadership, without asking for permission, it ended up condoning rape culture. At that point, Hoinski's legacy really went south. So he got a completely different job outside of the anime industry after moving to Tokyo and changing his name. But as he retired, he was no longer in charge of how much translators would get paid. Crunchyroll was. And ever since then, they either kept it that way or began looking for ways to cut costs and pay even less. The Kanapa Effect uploaded another video called "It's Still Impossible to Live as a Crunchyroll Translator," where he explains what Sony had done behind the marketing and the potential dangers of a monopoly. And now that Funimation has rebranded as Crunchyroll, most employees didn't have much of a choice. They had to accept lower rates or quit their jobs. Now, mind you, I'm not going to attack anybody in the former option. That was their choice. I could be jumping the gun, but with recent reports about Crunchyroll's interest in AI translations, which, as Otaku Spirit says, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, I can totally see how sub-watchers will react to Fairy Tail 100 Years Quest and various upcoming anime. Look, I don't like making a negative video about a popular anime that people love so much. I want to be excited for Fairy Tail 100 Years Quest, just as much as everybody else is. In fact, Fairy Tail is my favorite anime so far. But these AI translations are not it. This isn't how you properly translate Japanese in another language. If you're looking forward to it, then I'm happy for you. I'm just making this video because I care how it might be handled. And I want people to be aware of the potential harm AI translations could cause. Funimation was the gold standard of Fairy Tail, even with its English dub. Because of this, the more bad news I hear about where we are right now, the more it makes me wish that Funimation was back, or that Sony had just stayed away from both them and Crunchyroll. Now, to anyone who wants to post a comment that says something like, well, serves Funimation right for backstabbing Vic Mignogna, I wouldn't have believed you since I made a video addressing some of the misconceptions that the I Stand With Vic group supports. Like Hanlea confusing Vic Mignogna for Elic Guardiola, linking a story to a Pretty Ugly Little Liars user, when in reality, if you take at least 2 minutes to read the first story she posted on December 15th, 2018, she was 100% talking about Vic Mignogna because the user mentioned that he autographed merch based on Full Metal Alchemist. With the other story that she posted on December 16th, she heard a voice actor was eloping with a teen girl to Vegas, and brought her mother with them to make an agreement. She indeed assumed it was Vic, but it really was Elic Guardiola. Still, this doesn't prove that the poll user's story was completely about Elic Guardiola the whole time, and not Vic Mignogna. She was talking about how bad her first-hand encounter with him went. Another rumor I debunked was Chris Sabat having a casting couch. There's no evidence to the rumors that Chuck Huber reported in his affidavit. Plus, Chris Sabat is married to another actress named Tabitha Drysdale, and they've been married since 2008. Chuck Huber stated he heard rumors of a casting couch in 2007, meaning they were dating or engaged at the time. I've even read some of the affidavits that 16 of his accusers wrote under testimony. Things like giving female fans unwanted hugs, kisses, other kinds of physical contact, going as far as putting a hand on a wall above their heads, touching their shoulders, arms, or whispering into their ears. A few security officers even reported seeing him lash out at his guest handlers. In addition, throwing a major tantrum when he wouldn't get his way. Chuck Huber's only one affidavit in defense of Vic isn't much compared to these. Because of this, I think people should know better than that. Because now that Sony and Crunchyroll are monopolizing anime, and High Dive shut down in some countries, the industry is really starting to suck. And once High Dive shuts down in the States, it'll only get worse. We know where their titles are most likely going to transfer to, and they're no longer going to want to improve anything. And someday, when they take titles that have faded into obscurity, they might reach a point where they start to struggle. So with everything I've heard so far, something tells me this monopoly will end one way or another. But I guess enjoy it while it lasts?